And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. It was very good. It was very good. And behold, very good. It was very good. It was very good. It was very good. It was very good. And behold, it was very good.
Hello,
welcome
How
back.
are we? Welcome
good,
back
thanks,
to
Dan.
7 Days Podcast. I am Dan.
I'm Shush, and today we have...
Callum.
And Lara.
Hey,
Woohoo!
Callum
Nailed
and
it.
Lara. Hey, where are you guys from, first and foremost?
Yeah, from Ipswich, Queensland.
Whoop, whoop.
Ipswich.
Yeah.
Is that North Brisbane?
Place to be.
Nah, southwest Brisbane.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Perfect. Great.
Dan's geography is like on point. He's
I'm right
all
on point
over it.
today. Hey, the first thing we do, the way we like to kick it and break the ice, is we're going to ask you 5 fast questions that
Oh, boy.
we want just an immediate response. See where it sits.
Don't
with
worry,
you.
they're not like super intense.
They're not intense.
They're not.
normally pretty silly, to be
Yeah.
completely honest.
It's
so,
a good time.
Shush is going to start us off because I think she has the most.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
here we
I
go.
also have to give credit to my sister-in-law, Chloe, because she helped me come up with a lot of good questions on the weekend. So thanks,
Oh,
Chloe.
beautiful.
I know.
Yeah, you do know it. The first one is stars or rainbows?
Stars.
Rainbows.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was quick. They're the fastest
That's
answers
the
we've ever
fastest
had.
we've ever. It's good.
And then we slow it up. All right, are you ready for this one? I actually think this is a really deep question, but I love it. What is invisible that you wish you could see?
Gravity.
Oh, okay.
A physical representation of how we impact the people around us.
Oh, I like that.
That's great.
Oh, yeah, like
Like
influence.
colours that would like
Yeah.
represent whether or not we're annoying someone or whether we're inspiring someone.
Actually, I changed my
kinda
answer.
like-
His is better.
Kind of like emojis in some respect.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
seeing like emojis in the way you're
Like,
talking
I'd
to
love
someone.
to see the aromas we bring into each of them.
Ooh.
Is that,
do that.
synesthesia? Is that what that is? Isn't that
I've
when you
got no
see,
idea, man.
you see emotions in colours or something? Anyway, let's move on
know.
from that one. But that's
Could be
great.
that.
Good one, good one. My next question. What is your second favourite colour?
Yellow.
Green.
Oh, that second favourite. In the Hollywood movie Callum and Lara, who plays Callum and who plays Lara?
That's a great question.
You can be as cocky as you want, by the way, with this. I'd be like, Brad Pitt plays me for sure, you know.
I feel like it'd be the situation where you get like a really good-looking actor, but then intentionally make them look less good-looking. Like obviously, like, and then that would be like me. So you can go like a Zac Efron or something like that, and then you just make them
Good choice.
less.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I can think
Zac
of so
Efron.
many male characters right now, but I can't think of any female.
It can be male, that's fine.
That's all right.
That's
Who would
fine.
play you? Male character.
Who do you think should play me?
Let's go Angelina Jolie.
Oh, well done.
Imagine.
That's
Yeah.
Oh,
that's a
very
great
nice.
that's a great answer.
My last question is, what is your Hogwarts house? This is
Gryffindor,
going
I
to be
think.
problematic if you're not Harry Potter fans.
I can't remember. Gryffindor or...
I reckon she could be like Slytherin or something.
Oh, shut up. I'm going to say
Aren't they, like,
Gryffindor.
super similar?
Cockily.
I'm not like a big Harry Potter guy, I know it. But aren't like Slytherin and
Well.
Gryffindor similar?
They hate each other, but
But
They
they
hate
are
each
kind
other,
of
but they're
similar.
like, well,
They're-
Harry was going to be one of them, wasn't he?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
there's a
Come on,
complicated
I
reason
know
for
enough
that.
for that. Come on.
We could go down a wormhole here about like a whole
dude, this
Harry
is not-
Potter
we'll
thing.
talk
Can we
for an
just
hour
change the
about Harry Potter.
podcast?
Yeah.
Harry
It's
Potter?
actually now a Harry Potter podcast.
We're
Sorry,
actually
guys.
about to start watching it and commentate on it for the podcast. It's going to be great.
That's a great idea.
Beautiful.
Callum, what
Well,
are you?
Oh, yeah.
I said I've done the test thing online,
Of course.
and,
Yes.
and I came out as Gryffindor at the time.
Oi.
Oh, there you
But
go.
I reckon maybe Hufflepuff. But
Oh, yeah. We love our Hufflepuff.
There you
we'll
go.
find out.
Oh, well done. What are you, Shush?
I'm a Gryffindor, which is... I thought I was going to be a Ravenclaw, but the test said I'm a Gryffindor. So I can't argue with Pottermore.
can't lie with the test, right?
You can't.
That's
you can't. It is what it is.
Well, there we go. Fast 5 over. Thank you very much for that. Well done.
Wow.
Well done.
You were
Proud of
you
that.
were very good at answering quickly, and we were
Yes.
horrible at asking quickly.
Yes.
Not at all.
Well done.
Yes.
Now, let's start this thing off the way we do most of the other ones, and that is, can you give us kind of like a brief bio of yourselves. Like I know, let's start this thing off by saying majority of our podcasts have been with people who have done a specific art form for a long period of time, right? Mm-hmm. Now, today, the difference is we have you guys who are a lot younger and probably like at the beginning than at the end of a career in what you do. You hope. Exactly. So I guess like just what got you to where you are now? Yeah. And obviously you're a pair. How did that happen? Just a brief kind of introduction for people who are listening that don't know you. This is your background. This is why you do what you do now. Are you able to kind of divulge into your biographies for us, please?
I don't know, Lara. Can you do that?
Yeah. Well, I can speak for like what got me into this. It was really disconcerting. I can speak for what got me into like the whole music thing, mm-hmm. and kind of more about our journey. I don't really know about you.
You just start.
Go for it.
I can't really remember a time where I didn't love music, and I kind of wrote really bad songs since I was like 5, just because it was fun. Yeah. And it just slowly evolved, and I became really inspired by different artists. Especially, I loved Brooke Fraser when I was young. Like her Albertine album and stuff. I was like, oh, so good. So that's kind of what I listened to heaps when I was younger. And I just, kept working on it, I guess, and really tried to develop that. And it was just a way that I could connect with God. Like, it felt a little bit transcendent almost when I was writing, rather than being super rational. And that I started to make the decision to share my stuff, even though I was kind of nervous. So I would put it up on a YouTube channel or something. And that's kind of how Chris Brindley reached out to me and said, hey, we're doing this Songwriters Summit thing. It's in Sydney. You should come. And I was like, okay. So I did. And that's where I met Callum.
Hey.
Do you want to take over?
That was so smooth.
Brief, remember.
So I'd been writing bad songs since I probably was in mid to late high school. And I'd been playing guitar in worship teams and stuff for a long time. And I was asked if I wanted to go to the songwriting summit. And I met Lara and we wrote a song. And then found out I was moving up here with my folks. And I was like, oh, cool. So we we continued writing songs together, and it kind of went from there. I went and did a degree at uni, a music degree at QUT. And so I just finished that. But through that, I learned a lot about what you can record with and how to make tracks and stuff like that. And so while I was doing that, I used Lara's songs lots for my assignments. Not it was like not a songwriting assignment. It was like, go produce this song. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go produce one of her songs because she has good songs. Yeah. And then that's kind of, and then we eventually started making our own.
I will say, it was not easy learning to write together. Like, we knew that it was something that we wanted to do because it was it was fun, and it was like, well, why not? We both write songs. Like, it would be so cool if we did it together. But it took a long time to refine our collaborative process, I'll say. Like, I always found it really difficult. For me, songwriting was such a private thing. Like, it would be me alone in my bedroom, like, having this experience, and all of a sudden putting out like these, such fragile new ideas that you have, like presenting it to someone else was really hard for me. And I was like, maybe we could say something like this. Maybe we could have a line that goes like that. I found that really hard. But I think just over time you kind of build more trust, and it's easier to, just throw out ideas, be like, oh no, okay, then no, that doesn't work. Let's not do it.
Yeah.
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 But I'm definitely glad that we persevered because it's lots of fun.
Yeah, it's good. Good.
Well, I'm personally glad too, because I think what you guys do is great.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, that's all really good. I think like you touched on so many things there that, especially talking about the vulnerability and how that relationship's formed, is such an important part. Every time I get asked around songwriting or anything to do with that, I'm always like, the foundation of this is vulnerability, because every single thing you write is like your own little baby that you want to protect, and
Yeah.
also you're scared to show everyone. Like that's a constant thing. So no, that's really good. Did you both grow up within like the salvos, through like salvo churches, or what's kind of been your spiritual journey as well? What's the background of that?
You start.
I did. So my folks are officers. So
There you go. Ditto.
yeah.
That's why we get along so well.
Oh, yeah, that must be it. And so yeah, I went to church with them and followed them around. So I've been I think I was 2 years old when my parents... No. I was just born, I think, when my parents went into college.
Yeah.
And, so I've been it's within the Salvation Army at various places my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I was... sorry, let me form my thoughts. My mother was briefly an officer, but this was kind of in the dark days where officers couldn't marry other people that weren't officers. So she stepped down and married my dad. But I'm going to get my timelines all mixed up, but at some point they started a corps, the Forest Lake one, like ages back. And so I spent most of my childhood there, at Forest Lake. And then we went to... Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. And then we went to... we had a friend who started up a church in... It was at Kruger Baptist Church, but it was like his own thing that happened in the afternoon, and we went there for a while. And then it was just a couple years ago that I started going to Bundamba, which is the same corps that Callum goes to now.
Yeah, cool. So you've both been in and around the church your whole life. That's awesome. That's really cool. Shall we get into it, Dan? I'm keen.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I don't know where to begin. There are so many good things to jump into. But I will say I really related to this idea of when you have a piece of work and sharing that, whether that's sharing it as a finished piece of work or just like, I have this idea. This isn't so much a question, actually. I've just realised I'm just saying a statement.
Go for it.
I think that's something that relates to all art forms, right? And actually not being precious about our ideas and about our like kind of a little baby of this artwork, but actually like sometimes it requires us to be brave and be like, cool, I'm putting this out there and I don't want to be precious about it because actually that's not helpful in a collaborative relationship. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a question. That came to
No, I
mind.
like that. No, it needed to be underlined. I liked it a lot.
I did. It was stuck in my mind.
I have a question for you. Now, just so people are aware, Callum and Lara just did the self-denial song for this year. It was, wasn't it? It was the 2021 official self-denial song.
It was so good.
Yep.
Which
Thank
was
you.
a great song.
Stuck in my head all the time.
For those that don't know what that is, I guess it accompanies an appeal that the Salvation Army do to raise money for specific areas of the world that need it. And the song accompanied the theme of what that was. Now, touching on Lara's, before you were talking about how like writing to you is more of a like transcendent thing, not like a rational thing. I'm really interested if we have people that feel like similarly that writing music or any kind of creative art form flows from them naturally in a transcendent spiritual way. how do you then, if someone approaches you and says, hey, can you write a song for self-denial appeal or for a specific project or a specific subject, how do you keep, I guess, the integrity of the transcendent feel to keep in it? You need some of that rational thing in there, don't you? Like, because you're needing to meet something, right? So I don't know.
Great
like,
question.
yeah, and I don't have any answers on this, and I write songs myself. It's actually, but I'm just really keen to hear, I guess, where that sits with you guys, and have you found things that work in those situations, or has it been a struggle to try and figure that out, knowing that, I don't know, maybe it's one of that you might get asked another million projects to do for the rest of your life. Hopefully you do keep asked, getting to do things. But yeah, just thought I'd throw that over to you. Can you give some insight over how that works for you guys?
Yeah, I will say there's different levels. Like, there are some moments where I'm writing things where it feels like none of this is coming from my brain. Like, it feels like it's not even coming from myself. But there'll be other moments, and I would say when I'm writing with Callum, it is a little bit more of the rational side of things, which still works fine. I mean, it's kind of like you have the same vocabulary and that kind of thing that you've built up and skills, and it's more how it's being manifested in that moment. So for the self-denial appeal, and I think it's easier if there's actually a theme you've been asked to write, and it's something that, you know, is actually inspiring to you, then it's going to be a lot easier. Whereas if it's about a random topic that you're like, okay, it's probably not going to do that well. So that's what, for me personally, it was just a matter of reading through the stuff that we've been sent about what this year's appeal was meant to be, like what the theme was, reading through the Bible verses that we've been sent and that kind of thing, and just sort of sitting with it. And it was actually, I was hanging out my washing, and I was thinking about like the verses and that kind of thing, and I had the idea for the lyrics for the chorus, about wanting to kind of have a head, hands, heart sort of theme. And so that's like, that wasn't like a mystical like moment, but it was still a level. It wasn't me being like, now how exactly can I communicate this? It was like maybe we could say something like this. So yeah, I think it's definitely, I really want to do your question justice.
You are currently.
Yeah. You're doing it, totally nailing the question, don't worry.
Thank you. So it's not always going to be the same experience of like, wow, I have goosebumps, like I just feel like I'm, you know, in this magical stream where words are being placed into my head. But to be able to still connect to that at some level, which is another reason why I found it hard to collaborate with Callum at the start, because it's like we're sitting in the same room together and I'm like, I never do this. I'm by myself. I'm in my zone, and now there's like another human being here. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And which comes with the vulnerability thing as well, because the more you're able to be vulnerable, you're able to actually have that experience. So for the self-denial appeal thing, it still was somewhat like that, and our writing wasn't like together 100% of the time. Like I had the first idea myself when I was hanging out the washing, and then it was like, okay, I had that idea, hey Callum, what do you think of this? And then talking through it like that. So I think it's a really cool thing if you write that way, if you write in a way that does feel kind of more transcendent, but also learning how to integrate it into more practical collaborative processes. So
and I think that's sorry, Dan.
No, go.
I think that's so important, because I think a lot of people have this like misunderstanding that, you know, artists just like have inspiration flowing from them and they're in the zone all the time, and like they just, you know, it just goes, where actually sometimes it's a discipline. Sometimes you're like, no, I'm gonna make myself sit down and write, or sometimes it is, I've been given this thing, and sometimes you're inspired by it, and if we're honest, sometimes you're not inspired by the thing you've been given, but you got to still deliver an outcome. And actually like sometimes it's those times of like, I'm just in the zone, but actually also sometimes it's not. And it doesn't make you less of an artist or less creative. Actually, that's just part of it, you know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And even like, they're not black and white. Like, it's not, it's transcendent or it is rational. It's actually like, you're talking about a process where you're like, there's a rational idea.
Yeah.
I'm sitting with this rational idea and letting my natural, spiritual realm, mystical, creative self speak into that. Like, yeah, it's not black or white. Things just don't appear to people. Like, there is intention behind that. I think that's really important across all art forms. But sorry,
Definitely.
I think I cut you off, Lara.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just going to say that's something that was important for me to learn, because I used to only write when I would feel like that, you know, like very clearly, like, I'm inspired, I know what I'm writing about. And then what happens is you write 2 songs in 1 year, and it's like, they might be songs you love, and there's songs like, wow, I feel like this is a really good song, but it's like, you know, you've only written 2 and it's been 12 months. So it's... my mum used to always say to me, and I'll see if I can get this right, you can't force the wind to come, but you can open up the window, I think she said.
Ooh.
So the discipline, I feel like, is in choosing to make sure you open up the window. And it might be that you like discipline yourself and you don't feel particularly inspired, but you have to actually choose to sit down and try to do something. Otherwise, you just won't, unless you're literally hit with inspiration, which happens so small, like so rarely that you'll hardly ever create anything. So,
and also, like, if I don't know about you guys, but like you were talking about earlier about how you're pretty busy, and also, like, if you are busy, time can go so quickly, and you won't realize that it's been a year and you've only written a song or 2 songs, and it's like, well, it's, especially for me, for Lara, it's maybe a bit different, but for me, songwriting is much more rational. And so, like, I'll sit down, and if I give myself time to sit down and jam on an instrument, a particular progression might pop up, and I'll be like, oh, I want to write a song to that. But that only comes as a result often of the discipline to do my work on my instrument, or the discipline to sit down and do that. And in a busy schedule, it can get very easily sidelined if you're not really diligent about making room for creativity in that respect.
Yeah.
I just had something I want to say for people who are like me, who find it really hard to just, because I do find it hard. I find it hard to be like, I'm going to sit down and write a song right now. I'll just sit there and be like, I don't know. So the discipline for me, and this is different for everyone, I find it really helpful to do things like, rather than the discipline being in the actual sitting down to write a song, I'll do stuff like discipline myself to journal every day or something like that. And so it's not, that's not necessarily you trying to write a creative song. You're journaling, which means that you're staying more in touch with the things that are kind of, you know, happening inside of you and around you. And that's what makes it easier, because then I'm actually, I guess I have more of a constant stream of ideas of things that I can actually write about. So that's really helpful for me. If there are any writers out there that feel kind of similar like that, but I can't just write a song, that's helpful for me. And even writing down, like, I find it helpful to write out dreams that I've had, like at nighttime, that kind of thing. If I do that, then I have more material and stuff to draw upon for writing.
That's a really good point. And there's 2 things to that I draw. Like, one, you're actually practicing a skill by writing a journal, by the way. Like, you're actually practicing your writing, for one. But 2, you're making your own inspiration. Like, I remember having a chat with some people around, they're like, how do I become inspired to write something? And it's like, well, inspiration is very individual, for one. But it's like, you can get inspiration from going for a walk through the park. Or you get inspiration by sitting in your room and picking up your guitar and knowing something probably will come, right? So it's just knowing what your inspirations are, and not necessarily things. I don't know how. This might be a blanket statement, but me personally, I've never really just received something out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? It's always with an intentional thought, at least, right? Now, I know of people who write songs that they dream about, like, so it doesn't happen for everyone. Like, they might have a dream, wake up in the middle of the night, write the song, and then go back to sleep. But, like, intention around what inspires you is so important in any kind of art form, I think. And I think you touch on that really well. I think you've worded that really, really well, to be honest.
Yeah. And
do you have anything to add to that, Shush?
I want to jump in and just speak to the perfectionists out there, because I am the biggest perfectionist I know. And I think there's like a bit of a thing of like, when I create a work, it's got to be like the best thing I've ever done. And I know that really stopped me from creating for a long time. And then it was like 12 months and I'd done like 2 things because I was just so like scared, really. And I was afraid of like not creating good stuff. And I guess I just want to give them permission to, number one, like, we all make bad things and that's okay. And sometimes it's not for everyone, you know, like, you don't have to show everyone all the time, but like that you're going to make things and they're not going to be your best. But then next time you might make something and it is going to be your best. And actually by practicing and doing it over and over again, you are getting better. But I know that stopped me from creating, when we're talking about process, from just sitting down and doing or fiddling or whatever, because I was just like crippled. Or when I would sit down, I was like, this has to be like so prophetic or so profound or, you know, all this. And actually when I went, screw that, I'm just going to like do something, and it is what it is, and it might stay in my journal forever and no one will ever see it. Or I might come back and be like, oh, that was something, I might tap into that. And it may not stay in that format. I might use it in something else one day, you know. Anyway, just a note for the perfectionists out there, because that's me.
Yeah. And that leads into like a thought I have is like, I get asked the question a lot on how do I start to do this, right? Like, insert any creative realm. How do I start to do this? And it's like, you guys spoke at the start in your brief description of who you are and your bios. Like, you've both been writing music and you describe them as bad songs for a long period of time, right? Like, going back to somewhat of a rational thought, like, exploring creativity is kind of like a muscle, right? Like, you actually want to act upon things. And I often, it's hard when you're sitting in a room with a group of people that want to do something, but they've never actioned any of that ever before in their life. And it's kind of like, just as inspiration for people out there that want to do something, just go for it. Like, you have to go for it, because that's where you work out absolutely everything. Like Shush is saying, you work out all those little kinks and things that make it work for you. And like, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm assuming the fact that you were writing songs all through high school, and Lara, you said you've been writing since you were like 5 or something, like, you wouldn't be where you're at without doing that first, right? Like I think that's something really, hopefully that inspires someone listening that wants to do something. Just do it. Just give it a shot. Like, I don't know many people that just one day have it, you know. You've got to work at it and you've got to go for it. So, no, that's really good.
Go for it, Lara. I feel like you were about to say
I was going to say,
Callum.
you were talking about, Shush, you were talking about, like, how you used to be really perfectionistic, and then when you actually were thinking, no, I'm just going to do it, that really helped you. And that's something that Callum really taught me, because I would be so shocked. He would call me or something and be like, oh, I just wrote this song tonight, and like send me like a voice memo or something, like, oh, and they'd be like, the next night, I just wrote this song tonight, and I'm like, what? Like, really? But that was really shocking to me, because I would approach it like, okay, I'm writing a song now, and if I'm writing a song, then it's gonna have to be a good song, and if I'm gonna share it, like, it's gonna have to be, so the amount of songs that I would actually share would be very little, and the amount that I would write would be quite little as well. So it was really good for me to connect with Callum, and for him to just be like, oh, I just wrote this song. And sometimes he'd be like, oh yeah, just forget about it. Like, he still has them on his phone, obviously. But then we would go back through and be like, oh wow, look at that. Do you remember when you wrote that? Wow, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe we should like try to do something with that. So yeah, it is really helpful. And even though we were talking about transcendent stuff, I don't think it's like like for me, even when you have a transcendent experience, it's not because it just happens to you. It's, for me, there's still discipline, but I find that my discipline is, am I disciplining myself to make sure that I'm staying inspired, like fueling my own passion on a day-to-day? So things like going and taking a walk, reading a book, listening to music, doing stuff like that. And am I disciplining myself to, because I guess my part of our writing collaboration is slightly more with the lyrical, more of the poetry of it. And so for me, it's like reading books, stuff like that, and studying other people's stuff. Yeah. And that's what can lead to like a, wow, that felt so natural. It's not, Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that lead into the process of like actually writing. It's not just like I sit down and write. It's like, oh no, look at all these like kind of prep work almost that leads you to that point. It's good. It's good.
Were you going to say something, Callum? Because I've got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Nah, beautiful. On that note then, for you, Callum, as like probably a bit more of the engineer of what this partnership is, am I getting that right? You would do the recording. You're probably, if Lara's sitting with the lyrics, you're sitting with the music behind it. Am I correct with saying that and assuming that?
Yeah.
Do you find that... Oh, sorry, you go. Explain.
I was going to say, yeah, they're definitely probably like... while we both like have a part in the songwriting process, there are a few songs that like Lara will come to me with a melody and lyrics, and I'll kind of be like, all right, well, let's chuck this chord under it and do that.
Yes.
We have fingers in each other's pies, but they're mostly the other person's. Does that make sense?
They're still pies. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that then, how much do you go down the rabbit hole of like technology and what people are doing in recording booths around the place? How much time and effort are you putting into like knowing, I guess, the art form of the recording? You spoke about how you went and studied music. I know you've been doing some recording stuff with your study. Like, how much are you pouring into the theory side of things? Like, is that a big element of what you think a lot of where your mind goes when you're talking around writing? Like, are you very much like, this is the key? Lara's
this
shaking
is funny
her head
because she's going like
vigorously.
this and I'm like, no.
But something you have to know about Callum is that anything like that would be geared towards a positive comment made about him, he'll be like, no, I'm not really.
No, to answer your question, like, no, that's not true. I'm actually just trying to answer this question properly. So, to answer your question, I'm not as theory-based as you would think. Like, I do not frequently, and I probably should, do not frequently look up the latest recording technique used by X person. What I do more so, or where more so my passion is finding out what in particular genres each part is, and like how am I gonna how does this person make that effect with those guitars? And because it's often our songwriting might be like, especially my side of things would be like, I'll hear a sound, and then upon trying to figure out how to make that sound, I'll create a new sound or something within that sort of idea. And then it's like, all right, well, how do I put the pieces around that to create the four legs for this piece of work to stand on? Yeah. And to that end, I'll go and research how to do the technical aspects of it. Like that, like I'll be like, all right, well, we're going to need to put in a random example. We need to put in some brass here because that would make stylistic sense. And also we can think of how it would sound. I might make it in MIDI first.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, well, now that I know what I'm trying to do, I'm going to call the people I need to call. I'm going to do the research I need to research to find out what kind of equipment, what approaches I need to take to do that recording. Like tonight, we've got a sound engineer who does brass. I'm working with a guy doing some recording for him, but we're getting this guy in to record him, and I'm just coming in just to watch everything he does.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, cool. And because he's coming to our hall, it's like, all right, cool. I'm going to watch how you record in our hall, ask many questions, and then it's like, okay, well, now I've got kind of a bit of I've tapped into all the time that this expert's put into learning his craft, and capitalized on a bit of that time to learn. So that in that aspect, yes, I would study other people, I'd study other things, but typically I don't find my inspiration by going outwardly and searching for techniques and then thinking of, oh, we need a song to make to fit these techniques. It's more about, I've got this song, and so if I want to get it to a certain point, what do I need to learn and what techniques do I need to employ to get that sound? I guess.
No, that's good. I think like the thing that I'm kind of picking up from everything we've effectively spoken about so far is that like it's just reinforcing that things don't just come to people. Like you have to work hard at your art. That's what I'm picking up the most. Like you've got Lara writing journals every day. You're meeting up with people and watching what they do. Your ears are always on, I would say. That's probably correct. Like if you're listening to the radio and you hear something and you go, oh, that's quite interesting, your ears are on. Like this isn't just something that has just come to you guys without effort. Now, we believe that God's given you gifts, and this is like you activating those gifts that God's given you. But if anything, if people are listening, like maybe that's the point that we're getting out of this is that like you need to act upon that stuff. You need to put time into it. And like I've never been able to do anything without putting a lot of time into it. Like whilst I believe I have natural ability in some things, you need to put the time in and you need to put everything around it to build that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would make, and it's not good. in an aspect, it's not good, but I would make so many iterations of everything. Yep. It's like I make this iteration, and then it's like, and you have to get used to disappointment to an extent. Like you have to get used to you do an iteration, and you're like that night you're like, nah, this is it. This is sick. And then the next day you go and reference it or something, or you play it to someone.
Or you
like,
show it to me,
or I show it to her, and all I got to do is look at her face, and if it's not beaming, it's like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board, scrap hours of work and just try something new. And that's just how it is. And it's like I think at least for me, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about doesn't come particularly naturally. And so I know people for whom it does, and that's like, wow, that's great. But no, I'd say that there's a lot of just believing that it can be good, and believing that it can be something that you want to be proud of, and then just working until you are ready to, or till a deadline, until it's like, because you can consistently work on something. But for the Self-Denial Appeal song, like I'm really, really proud of what we were able to accomplish. But with all the iterations and stuff that we did along the way, if I was given the same brief tomorrow, I would go about recording it differently. And that's because you can consistently always improve on an idea, I believe, until it gets all muddled and then you've got two separate ideas. But the point is that if you set yourself a deadline, you work until that point, and then that is an example of all the learning and all the work that you put in to that point in time. And it's like, that is what I did. And you can be proud in that. Even if like you listen back in a year later and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have done that. It's like, well, you wouldn't know that you wouldn't have done that if you hadn't have done it. So
I think deadlines are creatives' best friends, honestly, because I think if we didn't have deadlines, we would just keep going and going, like you're saying, Callum, like we would keep going, and probably sometimes too far, or like I think sometimes you get to a point where you're like, look, this is as far as this idea is going, but I think if we didn't have deadlines, we would probably go past that line and we would keep going. And sometimes you do have a sense of like, no, I think that's the end of that, you know. But deadlines, honestly, creative's best friend.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask just something a little bit different on maybe a different trajectory? But like, you guys are doing, so we've talked about you doing the self-denial thing, which is effectively writing to facilitate your church. But I also know you're doing your own secular writing that you're putting out, and possibly an EP coming out soon. Are we allowed to say that? Is that a thing?
Yes.
or
No.
are we
If you say it, then I've got more of a deadline, right? So.
Yes. Callum and Lara EP coming out next week, so get ready.
No, not next week.
No. So can
Let's
you
do it next week.
can you chat around, like, where do you see the differences? Like, what's inspiring you to do the secular thing, as well as how does that meet, like, in church? Or is it a secular thing? Is the EP more aimed at church? Like, talk about the relationship and the weird tension point of that.
We can. I'll back
taking
down
turns.
first. All right. So first
Okay.
up, it's not like we went out to say I want to make a secular album. It's not like we did any of that. It's just that we've gone and compiled 5 or 6 songs that naturally came about, and it just so happened that this particular EP, it's not like it's not a concept album or anything like that. It's just 6 or 5, something like that, different songs that represent where we were at musically over the last year. And I think that, ironically, writing for what you would call church, to an extent, requires more of a rational framework than if we were just to go, we're just going to put together some songs that didn't come out with a particular goal in mind. We just allowed these songs to happen, and they say a certain thing. And none of those songs would particularly do well as a congregational worship song, and that's okay. At the same time, I believe that I wouldn't really want to write anything that didn't reflect what I believed in, or wasn't satirically making fun of something that I didn't believe in.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that particular way of conversation is necessarily going to be appropriate for all situations.
Yes.
And so, if secular, like, I don't really want to promote things I don't believe in, but if what I'm writing is going to have more of a home just out there for not marketed as anything in particular, then I'm going to put it in that home. Whereas we write worship songs occasionally, and it's like, well, I've got no problem with chucking this to my worship leader, or I've got no problem in that because I feel like that's actually going to be useful there. And it's more of we just write songs, and then depending on where they're going to be most useful, we push it in a certain direction.
That's a really good answer, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That's all. Just thought I'll give kudos to that. I think that makes complete sense. But yeah, did you want to say something, Lara?
Oh, you summed it up pretty well. But I never set out, like, for me, it's not compartmentalized like that. Like, in my own thinking, it's not like, okay, well, this is my Christian side and this is my secular side. Like, that's you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not where my brain goes. I write songs that you wouldn't play at church.
Well, you could.
But for me, like, I'm innately passionate about, in my day-to-day life, the furthering of the kingdom of God. So I write songs that it's like, I write songs that I don't say God in it. I don't say Jesus in it, but I'm not trying not to. And I'm not trying to. I'm writing from me and from my relationship with my creator. So, and like Callum said, if we happen to write in a way that is a lot more, I guess, if it's like, oh, well, this song could be actually more congregational, then maybe that's something that we can steer in that direction. It can be used for those purposes. Oh, it was my hand. Sorry, I got distracted. And, and like Callum was saying, different language is going to be helpful in some situations and not in others. So we write in languages that I'm like, you know what? I am convinced that this is a worthwhile language to speak in,
Yes.
but it won't necessarily fit all situations.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
These
No,
songs
that
are
is really good.
expressions of yourself and your who you are and your belief, incorporating your faith in Jesus, but they just look different and have different places, and that's good and fine. And I love it. I love it. Everything you said, I'm like, yes, so good.
Now, Lara, do you have a heart out? Do you need to get going to work or something? Is that a thing? You need to get out of here, don't you?
Oh, look, I have like 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, if you got 5 minutes, we might do some honouring then, Shush. Maybe.
100%.
How do you feel about that?
I feel fantastic about that.
Yeah, good.
I'll jump in. We love to spend the end of our time together just by honouring every person who comes on here, because we want to thank you, number one, for coming on the podcast. Loved hearing from you. And I loved the perspective you've provided. And talking about process, I think, is actually what we've really done today, which I think is so helpful. I know if I'm thinking back to like a younger version of me, it was always something so mystical like that I didn't really understand, and people just kind of did it. But actually breaking it down today has been really helpful, and I pray that it's helpful for people out there. So thank you for coming on. But I want to honor you and bless you, because it sounds, the way you've talked, you are passionately pursuing your craft and you are chasing after it, and you have like an individual drive that you're just going for it and just, you know, learning and just soaking everything up, which I think is amazing. And I think a lot of us get passive and we kind of go, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I know I'm so guilty of it, but I am inspired by the way you're like constantly chasing after things and challenging yourself to do new things. So I want to I guess honor you guys for that, and the passion you have, the drive you have, and bless it and pray that God would use it and increase it for his kingdom. Go Dan.
Well put.
Thank you.
Now, you both know that I think what you guys do is very good. I think I've told you that before, at least 20 to 30 times, right? But I want to honour you, not particularly for your skill, but for your heart. Like that your heart does come first. Like, it is obvious. Like, even I was blown away by the answer around secular versus church, because I think that is such a wise response, and a response from someone who's probably been involved in doing this for like 50 years, and you've said that at the beginning of what I would deem your career, right? Like, to have that wisdom is because you've had your heart in the right place, and because you're actually putting Jesus first, and you're spending time with Jesus, and you're spending time with like the first fruit and the principles of your own spirituality. And I think that shows through what you're doing. Now, your skill is obviously great, and I respect and honour the fact that you constantly are trying to make your skill better. But a lot of people take that before the heart, you know, and I love that you're in the right place. Like, from looking in, you're in the right place. And I just want to support you as much as I can. I want to throw love to you as much as I can, and just say, like, I honestly, I think what you guys are doing is really, really good, and everyone needs to go and listen to Callum and Lara and support them as much as they can.
Where can we check you out? Where can we find
check you out? Where can people listen?
Well, we got to release something first, eh?
Hey, don't throw it away.
Sorry.
Well, you can find us on Facebook, Callum and Lara. You can find us on YouTube, Callum and Lara. And you can find us on Instagram, you guessed it, Callum and Lara.
Hey.
It's pretty handy that there's not many Callum and Laras that have gone and created a Callum and Lara name.
Yeah, that's
spelled
How
the same way.
convenient.
So we'll put all those links on like the podcast brief or whatever it is, the description, so everyone can have a look on that and click on that and go to it. Good luck with the EP stuff. Hopefully it comes out soon.
Yay, we're so excited.
Keep us all in the loop. Thank you so much for your time. I know we
Yes.
got you in a brief window. We don't want to keep you any longer.
No. We love
you
you.
guys.
We are your biggest supporters. Maybe
We
not
love
biggest,
you.
but we're up there. I'm sure like your mums are like, no, we're the biggest supporters. But like, we're second. We are championing you guys, and we love what you do. It's so good.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you
We need
so
to chat soon
much.
anyway, by the way. I need to get on to you about something else, but this has been lovely. I I think that'll do it. Are you happy with that, Shoshana?
I think that's a wrap. That was
Yes,
wonderful.
Team Callum. Hello, 7 Days listeners. Thank you
Hey,
so
friends.
much for listening to our newest pod with Callum and Lara.
We hoped you enjoyed it. We loved chatting to them. They're absolute legends.
Yeah.
So it was really great. Really got inspired, we thought.
Yes.
We hope you
now-
thought so too.
Yeah. Now, if you like what you heard, what are some things people can do, Shoshana?
They can subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Subscribe just means like you'll be notified and it'll come up when a new
Yes.
episode comes out. So that's why you should do it, so that if you don't happen to see us post on Facebook or something that it's up, you can find out. So subscribe, number one. Also, while we're on that, check out our Facebook, worshiparts.salvos.au at Facebook and Insta. There you can keep all up to date with all the things we're doing.
Great
Just
point.
as a side one. But the other thing you can do is share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with people in your community. Get them to have a listen, especially people. I know I'm a bit of a podcast person. I listen to podcasts. And when I think of someone, when I'm hearing podcasts, sometimes it reminds me of someone. And so often I'll be like, hey, you should go check out this episode. So if there was something in this episode or previous episodes that reminds you of someone, make sure you go and share it and get them to have a listen and check it out.
Absolutely, especially this one with a couple of young people doing a lot of good things in the creative realm. If you can think about people that are interested in delving into the creative, this might be the podcast for them. So definitely, if you can think of people, share it with them, send it around, not for me and Shush's glory, but for the glory of the kingdom, and actually let's invest in these people. So
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
look, thanks for listening, and we love you all.
We love you.
Yeah, have a good one. We'll see you soon, hey?
Bye.
And behold, it was very good.